Hello and welcome to the Daily Climate Show. Coming up, with much of Europe in a severe heat wave, we report from Portugal, which is on a high state of alert for wildfires. Irreversible biodiversity damage could kill off mankind. A dire warning from the Environment Agency chief, but there is hope. And how Barbie is turning Dr. Jane Goodall to a life in plastic ahead of World Chimpanzee Day. Hello and welcome to the Daily Climate Show, where we track the changes happening to our world, hear from those hit hardest by those changes and report on the race for solutions. So to start, Portugal is bracing itself for record temperatures this week, with the mercury set to hit 46 or even 47 degrees in some regions. The country is now at the third highest of 4 alert levels, with the public banned from accessing forests deemed to be at risk. There have been hundreds of wildfires in recent days, with thousands of firefighters tackling the blazes, but forecasters are warning that the worst is yet to come. Much of Europe is caught in a severe heat wave. Temperatures in some parts of France are expected to reach 39 degrees this week, heightening concerns they could trigger further wildfires. The Italian government has declared a state of emergency in 5 northern regions due to drought, with crops failing and the country's longest river drying up. Parts of Spain are expected to reach 42 degrees this week in some areas along the border with Portugal. And in Portugal itself, the wildfires have left at least 29 people injured as thousands of firefighters and dozens of aircraft there battle those blazes, while temperatures are forecast to reach upwards of 45 degrees. From there, our climate change correspondent Hannah Thomas-Peter sent this report.
We're in an area north of Lisbon where a wildfire blazed through this area, one of the worst actually. Thousands of firefighters battling hundreds of blazes in extreme temperatures. Things are under control, relatively speaking, for now, but let me show you why it's a problem. People live in these areas. Communities have been fighting the fires away from their homes and hoping that it doesn't destroy all they own. This isn't just an issue here in Portugal, it's an issue across Europe, and climate change, say scientists, is helping to drive the conditions that make all of this worse. Increasingly frequent, increasingly severe heat events and drought events, combining in a toxic combination really to extend fire seasons and misery for millions of people. Now, the forecast is for more extreme temperatures in the coming days, heading up to perhaps 46 degrees in this part of Europe. But Spain and France and, of course, the UK going to be feeling those temperatures later in the week too.
Our climate change correspondent Hannah Thomas-Peter there reporting from Portugal. Let's get some more climate news now. Nearly 100 billion pieces of plastic are thrown away each year by UK households. The Greenpeace survey also found just 12% of all plastic waste is likely to be recycled in the UK, and more than 80% of it comes from food and drink packaging. It highlights that plastic bottles and cups can take 450 years to break down while releasing chemicals into the soil. The UK installed the lowest number of heat pumps in Europe last year. Less than 43,000 were installed in 2021, according to the European Heat Pump Association. This falls far short of the target set by the government to install 600,000 every year by 2028. Installing pumps reduces carbon emissions produced through heating homes by drawing heat from the air or the ground. Germany's Vice-Chancellor and Climate Minister says keeping the country's remaining nuclear power reactors running will do little to address the problems caused by a potential shortfall in gas supply. Robert Habeck's comments come as Europe continues to struggle with an energy crisis following a fall in supply of Russian gas, damaging the continent's energy security. Germany and the Netherlands have previously said they'll reactivate coal power plants to make up for the shortfall. Now, humanity is closer than ever to irreversible biodiversity damage, which could kill humans. That's the warning from the Environment Agency chief today. in a dire speech to mark a report which reveals the extent of biodiversity loss across the UK. Sir James Bevan explained that people, not just plants and animals, are at risk if we don't take better care of the natural world.
Now, you could say, does this matter? Does it really matter if the vole goes the way of the dodo? Well, yes, it does matter. It matters immensely because the biodiversity crisis, and let's be clear, that's what it is, it won't just kill the plants and the animals it's killing, it will kill us as well. That's because nature provides us with a host of things that we depend on.
Well, the speech wasn't all doom and gloom, though. Sir James did make it clear that it's not too late to turn things around if natural habitats are restored. Well, joining me now to talk more about this is Sarah Fowler, Chief Executive of the Wildfire and Wetlands Trust, who've been working with the Environment Agency on this. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. So, could you explain a bit about why we're losing so much biodiversity and also what sort of life forms are being particularly affected?
So nature is beautiful, essential, but it is threatened. For us here at the Wildfire and Wetlands Trust, we're particularly concerned about the alarming loss that we've seen in wetland habitat and wetland species. We've lost almost 90% of wetlands globally since in the last 100 years across the nation and the world. Now, our wetlands are incredibly important. They're the lifeblood of the planet and they're important service stations for birds, breeding birds like the curlew, like the black-tailed godwit, and we're starting to see losses of those and we're doing a lot of work there. But they're also really important for natterjack toads, damselflies, those beautiful species that you see, and we're seeing that across the piece, not just in freshwater, but also in our terrestrial habitat like trees and woodlands as well, are being lost massively.
And the study shows that 15% of flora and fauna are at serious risk of extinction. What would happen if that 15% did become extinct?
Well, the scary thing is we've lost species already as a nation and as a globe. And these species are really important. They're indicators for the health of the habitat. So as we start losing species, it's telling us a really important signal that actually our habitat is in a massive decline. When our habitat that the species live on is in a decline, we're losing the essential services that the habitat provides. So wetlands are incredible carbon stores. They store carbon and prevent it going into the atmosphere. They're incredibly good at helping us buffer against extreme weather events. We know about the hot weather at the moment. Wetlands in cities are incredible at cooling the environment. They're really good at buffering us against us flood risks. So as we lose species, we lose those services basically that our natural habitats provide to us. So it has a real personal impact on us and our cities, and then every different individual in the nation.
And are we losing these wetlands to housing and industry and things like that? If that's the case, what needs to change? We need to stop building houses on wetlands.
So there is a range of reasons why we're losing habitats. We've built on them for wetlands, we've drained them and we're polluting them. All of those things have a massive impact on the habitats and the resilience of our habitats. What we need to do is protect what we've already got. Let's keep hold and not lose any more biodiversity or any more wetland habitats or habitats at all. And then we need to restore and create. And that's where there's huge hope for us as a nation and as a planet, that if we start looking at solutions that build in wetlands and build in nature back into infrastructure, we can start building that natural service that our habitats and nature provide to us. We can start building in flood defence schemes that are natural flood defence schemes. We can start building in natural ways of storing carbon in our salt marshes. But just one really simple example for you. We've been working with the Environment Agency on a major coastal realignment project in the Severn Estuary called Steart. That was created in 2011. It's managed by ourselves at WWT. It's a much cheaper and sustainable solution for protecting homes from flooding, but it also actually stores 18,000 tonnes of carbon in the 4 years since it's been working actively as a wetland habitat. And to put that into context, that hope, that amount of carbon stored is as much as if you planted 1 million trees and had grown them for 10 years. nature can provide a brilliant solution to some of the challenges we've got with climate.
That's so brilliant to hear. So just quickly, do you think enough is being done to restore these habitats, or do you think the government perhaps needs to invest more money?
I'd like us to build a future revolution that's both green and blue, a future revolution for infrastructure building that builds in nature, designs it in right from the start. I think more can be done on that, and we at WWT and other environmental NGOs stand ready to help that happen. Wetlands and nature can be our solution to the biodiversity crisis, climate crisis, and also the wellbeing crisis as well.
Sarah Fowler, Chief Executive of the Wildfire and Wetlands Trust, thank you very much for joining us today. Now, just before we leave you, Barbie have announced a doll modelled on the celebrated conservationist Dr. Jane Goodall ahead of World Chimpanzee Day. The environmentalist is well known for her work in protecting the primates from extinction, and she's hoping that the dolls will encourage youngsters to study nature.
When I heard that Jane Barbie doll was going to be made, I was really happy, because actually I'd been suggesting it for a long time, that girls don't want just to be film stars and things like that, but many of them, like me, want to be out in nature studying animals. And so a Barbie doll who's Jane is a super idea.
And as you saw, that doll comes with a pair of binoculars and a notebook and a chimpanzee, definitely one for the Christmas lists. Now, just before we go, if you've got any questions about the climate issues in the show, or literally anything about climate change, do send us what's puzzling you, and we'll do our best to give you an answer on our weekend climate show, hosted by the environment broadcaster and author Tom Heap. If you scan the QR code on your screen right now, you can send us those questions directly. That is all from us today. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.